Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Good morning and welcome to a new episode of Updates from London. Our special guest today is Leni Remedios. Hi, Leni. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Let me just introduce, if I may, introduce you to our audience. Leni is an author. She's a journalist. She writes for a number of independent publications, among which we can list the Andromeda Project, which has just been launched, also megachip.info and the Sacher Italia. Am I correct?
Yep.
And of course, as I say, she's an author. She just launched her first. Launched her first book, Milady's Room: A Ghost Tale, which I think is available on Amazon, if I'm not wrong.
It is, yeah. Amazon, okay. UK, US, in Europe, yeah. All around.
Amazing.
We collaborate also with Andromeda Project. We collaborate also with Eco dei Palazzi.
Oh yeah. Amazing. So today's topic is, as you can see from the very self-explanatory title, is did Russia intervene or interfere in the EU referendum? Of course, on Tuesday, the news of the Rush report, which was finally published after a 9-month delay. It was supposed to be published last October, but then because of the election, got pushed back till this year. Finally, it's been published, and the results, as we read, are that the UK government badly underestimated, in quotes, these are the actual words used, the Russian threat, and did nothing to either to prevent it, or also to analyze it afterwards. Of course, the news swept across all media, all mainstream media, main titles of The Guardian, the BBC, Sky, all sort of the Daily Telegraph, the Times, all reported the news. And, this is our topic for today. I think, Leni, can start by saying, right off the bat, what do you think of this news of the Rush report? Is there any credibility to it? What kind of evidence is it based upon? As I said to you, thank you so much for being out with us today. It's an absolute honor.
Thank you so much, Manuel. As I said, thank you too for having me here. First of all, let's just remind to the public what is this report. As you say, you explained that already, yeah. And something about the committee, the Intelligence and Security Committee. Just reminding, it's a committee that consists of 9 members. And that are drawn from both the houses of parliament. And I forgot to say completely that the report was following the EU referendum in 2016. So although the UK government has been accused of not doing enough to prevent Russia from interfering. So my question for you today is: did Russia really interfere? Sorry, well, I had to make a little. Yeah, I'm going in a minute. Just to make it clear to the public that the Commission oversees basically the whole community, the whole intelligence community of the UK. So MI5, MI6, the GCHQ, which is the Government Communication Headquarters, Defence Intelligence, Counter-Terrorism, all of them.
And in terms of in terms of evidence, this is what we were expected to read in this report, and naturally, it was long waited right for this reason. And did the government of UK do enough to to tackle this interference regarding especially the referendum about Brexit and about, you know, but it's not actually it's not about the referendum only. There's a number of issues and topics listed in the report, and I'm going there in a minute. Well, I answered straight away to your question, Manuela, to be very frank and honest. Is there any evidence? No. I wish I would have found some evidence.
That's exactly what I've seen. I mean, by reading all the sort of main articles from mainstream media and also independent media, the one thing that has striken me is that there's no actually factual evidence behind
there is no factual evidence, as you said. And yes, as you said, also, I'm not the only one saying this. There's a number of analysts that say the same thing, that we were all waiting for this report. But what the point I want to make with you, Emanuele, actually, is that from my point of view, it's not much a matter of evidence, of providing evidence, but rather to reiterate a narrative that has been provided over and over again through the last years. And I will back this argument, also check it with the public, you know, and check it with you, talking with you about what's behind this commission, the work of this commission, or better, who the commission, the committee was relying on. We're going to see some facts about it, and we see, and also we can see the other point I would like to make is that the same actors that are behind the work of this committee and behind this report are basically the same actors that were behind the accusation done against Jeremy Corbyn during the election campaign 2019.
Interesting.
Maybe you remember the document about the NHS. You remember?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that you know,
it was leaked right before the election. I remember a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and it came out that this document that was revealed basically by the Labour Party. Well, the substance of this document was showing that the UK government was having secret talks with the US in order to basically sell bits of the NHS to the Americans. That was the substantial fact, but all the attention of the public at the time was diverted to the fact that the Labour Party received this document thanks to the Russians again. And then if we go farther back in time, naturally the Russiagate against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That was, you know, the aim was providing evidence that Donald Trump and his aides had deep contacts with the Russians. But and again, it failed. There was no evidence provided. Even the Mueller, the chair of the committee, many actors are omitted. But we can see over the time that the actors that are behind these operations, there are many. We can talk about clusters of individuals and organization and think tank. Eventually, they all rotate around the same organizations, and namely Atlantic Council, that is a NATO think tank in Washington, and the Secret Intelligence, both American and in UK. And do we have facts to provide, you know, to back this argument? Yes, we have. And even the report, this last report itself, and we have the mainstream media talking about integrity initiative, for example. And integrity initiative, it's a name, it's an organization that's an institute of statecraft, that is the mother organization, basically, that might ring a bell in someone in the public, because this is an organization that was also behind the operation that we were talking before about the NHS documents. And the director of this organization is explicitly nominated at the very beginning of this report. His name is Chris Donnelly.
Yeah.
And together with other names, but I pick only these two names, Chris Donnelly and another name that might ring a bell in the public, that is Christopher Steele. Especially the second name is very well known among the people that have been following the Russiagate for a long time. Is a former MI6 agent. He is the one who basically wrote the report that was aimed to attack Donald Trump in the Russiagate. And that was hired by the Fusion GPS. That is a private company hired in turn by Clinton and the DNC. So you can see that everything is interconnected in all these events. But back to Chris Donnelly. Who is Chris Donnelly? Apart of being the director of an integrity initiative, that the organization is also, was over the time was providing to the media a lot of material to basically demonize Russia for some reasons. He has been advisor for 4 secretaries of NATO, and he's been an advisor for former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. So when this is a very important point, because regardless of the stance of people about NATO, about Russia, this report is portrayed as an independent report. So this is a very important, this is a crucial point.
Actually, I'm going to show it to our audience.
Yeah, let's show it to the public. This is a very important point, because what are we talking about? When we talk about an independent report, we're assuming that is impartial. We're assuming that is someone like a judge who is above the 2 contenders. Okay, and we can read in, well, it's very interesting, the language of these reports. If you allow me to spend 2 words about this. Okay. And I will point out some of the language used, and also I will take also an example what the former UK ambassador Craig Morris say about it. Okay. Yeah. So there is the very first lines of the report are portraying Russia basically as and I'm quoting the word they use, as a nihilistic country that probably is posing this threat towards the West, because it thinks in the end that it's got nothing to lose. So kind of, if you allow me, like portray like a nihilistic, self-destructive teenager, okay, who, and these are other words of the report, who's got no credible friends among other countries in the international context. So naturally credible from the point of view of those who wrote the report. So these are it's a very picturesque, it's very strange language for report for independent.
Earlier, language very plural. To say the picturesque.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
You wouldn't really expect it from an actual report, which is supposed to be based on facts. But
it's almost entertaining, Emanuele. I was almost chuckling when I read these lines, because it's not, I wasn't expecting that. But apart from that, there are some keywords that are used, and I like to draw the attention of the public on that. Many times in the report, you can see phrases like "it appears that," "there's a high level of confidence," "we believe that," "it has been widely reported." That is another thing. It's been widely reported.
Yes.
So in the mainstream, in the media, so they are taking they're taking material from the media, not from the classified material. And the language that is used, this ambiguous language, has been used also in numerous reports about Russia and the Russians. Even in the report, remember, that was written about the Olympics. And maybe the public remember that Russia was excluded by the Olympics because of the doping. Do you remember?
Yes.
And the language use was the very same. You might remember the highly likely expression used by Theresa May so many times, over and over again. So these expressions are used. Why are they used? Well, they can't say explicitly, well, we aren't really sure, but they're not excluding either. So they're using this smart language. So it's in a way to say, well, of half admitting we're not really sure, we don't have all the evidence, but we are in a position of saying, well, we are convinced, it's our thoughts, it's our belief, that, but it's not really providing evidence, you might convey. And also we have the observation of Craig Murray. As I said, he's a former ambassador, UK ambassador, and he has a long experience in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Experience about classified and unclassified material. And he said about, for example, this report, as we said, is covering a long list of events, including the Scottish referendum. And about that, Craig Murray, who is Scottish and is backing also the topic of the independence. Yeah, we can see the link here. He's stressing that Craig Murray is stressing this expression in particular. He's saying, well, when you read the expression credible open source reporting, that is repeated many times, the report, he says explicitly, this is an intelligence jargon, is not intelligence material at all. It's basically propaganda formulation. This is these are his own words. Okay. The open source reporting means it's not, as I said, the classified material, is material that is already available to the public through the social media, through the mainstream media even. So there's nothing new. In short, there's nothing new under the sun. As I said initially, my point is, it's not about providing evidence. Again, it's repeating over and over and again a narrative that has been used all the time. And what's the purpose of that? Well, we have seen, there's a saying, that when you repeat a lie, you tell a lie once, you repeat it the second time, then the third time it becomes a truth.
Which is basically what Ian Fleming used to say, which was part of the introduction to the video. Once is a pestilence, 2 is coincidence, 3 is enemy action. So,
I just gave a psychological twist to this quote because what I just said, it's interesting applied to the quote that you're coming out with. But what I just said is not only an old law of propaganda used by many, including the Nazis at the time, but it's by many powers, but it's also a concept known by psychologists as the illusion of truth of fact. So by repeating a fact that is not true, basically, or is that is not demonstrated as true, but if you repeat it over and over again, it becomes the truth. And in sense, they've been successful already, at least so far, because the public, the general public, has has been absorbing this kind of narrative for a long time. And as I said before, even though we have, the Russiagate in US is closed, has been closed, and even we have the CrowdStrike company who admitted, at the committee, the Senate committee in US, that there's no evidence, for example, that the Russians hacked and stole the email from the DNC. They admitted that overtly. It came out. So and even Robert Mueller himself, he said there is no evidence, there's no way to carry on. But nevertheless, the seeds went already in the mind of the public, were implanted in the mind of the public, went under the skin, to the point that I see nowadays bloggers and journalists, that's leftists or not, that are still falling full feet in this narrative and still talking about the Russiagate, assuming that that happened for real, the hacking, the stealing, and all of that. Yeah. Then we had the Salisbury case again. So also in the Salisbury case, well, that is why did I say initially that the same actors are behind a series of operations. The same Christopher Steele that was nominating before is one of the persons that is behind this case as well. And there's a number of actors, but as I said, they're all rotating, revolving around, in the end, the same organizations.
Yeah. So you can, from listening to what you were saying, starting from sort of Russiagate, which was, the US presidential election 2016, and then we've got the UK election 2017, which saw Theresa May win by a very narrow margin, and the only thing she could do to govern was to make an alliance with DUP, Northern Ireland. And then we saw, the EU referendum, then US presidential election, UK election, and then the new UK election, the recent one, last December. There seems to be like a thread which almost portrays Russia as the new enemy, if we can say. Is Russia really the new enemy, or is there more at play? Are there any kind of geopolitical issues that might make us think that, or is there more to it, or Russia has just been chosen as sort of the target of the movement?
Well, this is a very interesting question, and it deserves many different levels of answer, because of course, there are probably many targets, and so let's start from the present moment. Present moment geopolitically is very critical. We have seen just a few days ago, we may say that the UK government eventually banned Huawei, for example, from the country, which is a subject that is being dragging on for a long time. You might remember that the first leaks about the meetings of the UK government with officials from Huawei, when they came out through Gavin Williamson. Back then, he was Minister of Defense, if I'm not wrong. Then you might remember that, especially the Five Eyes, the alliance of the intelligence
agencies,
they reacted immediately. They said to the UK, "You don't have to do that." I remember it's an international alliance, intelligence alliance that includes UK, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
Yes.
So the reaction was very strong. Nevertheless, the UK carried on. The network was, started to be built. But then eventually the UK, we have seen that they banned the network, the Chinese network from the country for about the new networks to be set up, and they said you have time until I think 2027 to start everything.
To get rid of all the 5 minutes.
Yeah, and let's remember that, of course, that China and Russia are part of non-allied countries, let's say, that are emerging in this in the last few years, especially. They formed an alliance. They're supporting each other together with Iran as well, and we can see also by the U.S. axis together with UK. That is counterbalancing this, let's say, this providing a different pole of action. So we're going towards a multipolar, what they say, multipolar world, where it's not only the US and the Anglo-Americans be dominant in the global scene, but we see also these powers emerging. So it's not Russia only, of course. It's also all other countries that are behind. So this is a one aspect. It's very easy to blame Russia now. That is another thing that picturesque in a sense, because the UK media are portraying Russia, the reaction of the Russian, as angry about this report. But actually, we may summarize that with a shrug. They're not really angry. They've seen this over and over again. They're even tired of that. It became, I don't want to say a joke, but almost,
Well, it is all these reports. They're coming back with no evidence.
Yeah, obviously, it's not only a shrug. They are taken seriously because in international language, diplomatic language, this means that there are something going on. So when another word that we see in the report, I forgot before when we were talking about picturesque aspects, is paranoia. It's paranoid, and the report is portraying Russia as paranoid because Russia is convinced that the West is posing a threat to Russia itself, or that is very aggressive. And I go back to the point of the fallacy about the independence of the report, that I like to remember that, and this is not speculation, is you can check that in the mainstream media even, that this is a fact, that we have NATO missiles and NATO troops deployed, especially in the Baltic countries and in the Eastern European countries like Poland, like Bulgaria. And last but not least, we have seen in May the NATO submarines coming from US and coming to Norway, in the north of Norway. They're very close to the border with Russia. And so it's kind of, if you think in a moment, you think, wait a minute, you have a report that is written with the aid of people that are part of the Atlantic Council, so NATO. They are saying that Russia is paranoid about NATO and Western countries. There's a kind of fallacy in that. It's like, to make it more clear, Emanuele, it's like if you have your neighbor that is pointing some weapons towards you from his backyard, and you're asking for an independent investigation about that. The investigation is saying that eventually that you are paranoid, but then you realize that the investigation is conducted by a friend of your neighbor. So to make it more clear, and so it's kind of strange, this, but then again, if we see what's behind, so we can understand. But going back to your question, what about the enemies? Well, there's another level. There's another interesting level. And in here, I like to consider the words of journalists of the Grey Zone Project, Max Blumenthal and Aaron Matte.
We have an article by him, actually, which I'd love to show.
At the time of the document about the NHS that we discussed before, they said, yeah, those on the left who have been critical of Russiagate have long warned that it would be used to attack progressives and progressive values. And this is actually what happened. And not only about against Jeremy Corbyn only, about against Bernie Sanders. We've seen Tulsi Gabbard that was attacked by Hillary Clinton herself to be a Russian bot. And we have Jill Stein. So all the progressive basically in America. And eventually we, the same pattern arrived to UK against Jeremy Corbyn. So if we look at it very closely, and they were right, they are right. So the same pattern, and it makes sense with what I said before, that the same actors are behind. And I'm going a little bit in depth again about this topic later on. But about this, what is the ultimate target in this? I do partially agree with their view. Is the left. Is the progressive, the leftist, and the progressives on the left, or that's in America have tried to have more visibility. We have seen Bernie Sanders both this year and in the previous election campaign excluded completely, and we have seen the smear campaign in UK against Corbyn. So whoever challenges the narrative that a certain kind of establishment wants, then is cut out. My argument is, why do I partially agree with that? I partially agree with that, and it's true also because we have seen that a few days before the publication of this report in UK, not by chance, one of the challengers of the Labour leadership, Lisa Nandy, came out again with this argument of the NHS document attacking Corbyn, that he didn't do enough, basically, against the Russians. So this is not by chance, okay? This is all orchestrated, because and I read that personally here in UK as a further attempt of dismantling completely what's left of the left party, of the leftist in the Labour Party, who they call it Corbynistas or whatever they want, with the socialist view. But anyway, that is the interest, both in US and both in UK. In UK specifically, because the Corbyn leadership has been even more anti-imperialistic than Bernie Sanders, as the journalists of the Grey Zone pointed out. But what's the difference? That's the same pattern. I'm convinced that what happened in US with the Russiagate, yes, there was the goal was also to get rid of the left. But for what I see is it was a genuine attempt to get rid of Donald Trump. And one of the many, to be honest, because we've seen from day one how they have tried over and over and again to impeach the president, to come out with some form of scandals. They've done anything in power, and including bipartisan. Sorry.
Including
publishing books. Well, we've seen also recently, that's a very interesting, I don't know if you're referring also to the book written by John Bolton.
Oh yeah, John Bolton, yeah.
John Bolton, that is very interesting because John Bolton, hawk, neocon of really, that there was fired by Trump, and it was his advisor. But you can see the conflict that inside within the Republican parties, because it ultimately is not much a conflict between two parties, but as you know, it's a conflict between different kind of establishment. The establishment is not monolithic. We have said that in numerous debates. We can see that at the top of the pyramid, there's really a big conflict going on, and it's becoming every day, bigger and bigger. So that's very interesting. But and then there's a third level, that who is the enemy? Again, I go back to say that the enemy is us. So there are different types. These operations are useful in many ways. As I said before, this narrative of demonizing Russia, but also other countries, the countries I've nominated before, has worked. We don't know how long it will work, but as long as the trick works, they're using it. Every time they want to demonize someone, either on the left or on the right, that is my point. That is not much important. What is the political movement or party of reference? When they have to attack someone, they resort to these arguments, and until it works, they will use it. So, and also the public is a victim of this, not only political opponents. And so it's very important to keep a critical vision about it and be able to see all the actors involved.
Of course. Leni, thank you so much. And of course, as I would say, as a final question to today's episode, today's chat, because, what we're trying to do, we want to empower people to develop further and further a critical thinking. Something happens. So what we said several times, instead of reading just one article in it, you need to be able to know all the different aspects of one particular event or one fact, something which has happened. So don't read only one point of view, but you need to have some sort of an overall vision of what has happened. What is your suggestion to our viewers, to our readers? How can, especially when it comes to today's topic, how can they sort of further develop their critical thinking instead of, stopping at the very first hurdle and basically, in a way, believe what they see right off the bat? What would you say is your advice for our, viewers? How can they sort of keep on developing their critical thinking?
Well, first of all, I totally agree with you that it's crucial to develop a critical thinking, a critical vision. What do I suggest to the public? Well, I might repeat the same words that I've been told by one of my masters, Giulietto Chiesa, that left us not long ago. And that is, don't trust anybody, not even myself. Regarding the things I've said today, do your own research. Don't trust me. Do your own research. Just Google it and try and find. Nowadays, everything is available. So there's no excuse to say, well, this is not available. No, if you can do it. Well, and it's very important, yes, as you said, to see all different views about a topic, but also remembering that these current times are pushing us towards a polarization, and it's very difficult to have an open debate because people tend to rest on polarized views, and also sensationalism. So when you read some news or you listen to some news, try not to, as you said, to stop at the headlines and or to indulge in your emotions, but try to see what's behind, or trying to investigate farther behind what is said in the headlines, basically, and try to do it yourself. Nowadays, we have also a number of really skillful investigative journalists. I have nominated some of them today, but of course, you can find your own path. And always, though, try to filter everything with your own ideas, with your own thoughts, rather than allowing others to impose the views on you.
I think on that particular point, I think we can, I guess, close today's episode. I think it was a very powerful sentence. And, you know, again, what we're trying to do goes exactly back to what you're saying. You know, you need to empower your views and not just sort of stop at the first thing you see or you read, but try to dig more and more, you know, seek for the truth. And also you have to, you know, seek other points of view. And yeah, to get, I guess, you know, there are always like different sides to a story, and sometimes as clear as it may seem, it's not that clear. So it's up to you to go and find out the truth by reading more and more, by keeping up to date, different news outlets. And yes, one last closing statement. What shall we say?
Well,
of course you're off guard. I know, sorry.
You're catching me by surprise, but yeah. But I will just reiterate: just think for yourself, and I will maybe yes. Well, there is something I can tell to our public. It is something I used to say about myself, and as a joke, but also with pride. I used to say, I don't think out of the box. I break all the boxes. So what I invite the public to do is even to break the boxes. So it's a fun invitation to think with your own mind and read. Remember something, journalism, I'm an author as well, as Emanuele said. Journalism is not the reality. Journalism is a narrative of the reality. So bear this in mind. So when you read something or listen to something, you can diffuse, you can see how news are built. So it's always a point of view on the reality. So as Emanuele said before, it's better that you have a look at different visions, and then you make up your own mind about it and break all the boxes.
Let's break all boxes. That's a good one to finish with. Leni, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been it's been an honor. Also, I do want to remind all our viewers, your book Milady's Room, a ghost tale, is available to buy on Amazon.
Gothic story. It's a gothic story.
It's a gothic story, which is your first book. Am I right?
It's my first novel in English. I've published also some short stories in Italian before, in some online magazines, and I've translated also the first official translation of a tale by Daphne du Maurier, a tale of, an early tale by Daphne du Maurier, which is a very known British author. So, but this is my first novel in English.
Amazing. Leni, again, thank you so much. And to all the viewers out there, hope you enjoyed today, and nothing left to say but, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.